Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this afternoon meeting of the Executive. I would like to welcome all of you who are also watching us on YouTube. And it's not quite sunny enough yet to want to spend all the afternoon outside, but we're getting there. We certainly are. So please, can I start with the first agenda item, which is apologies. Do we have any apologies? No. Thank you. I would now like each member of the executive to identify themselves and then say what portfolio you have covering, so that those members of the public who are watching us know who we all are. So my name's Linda Hazy and I'm leader of the council and I chair this meeting. Councillor Boylan.
Hello, my name's Peter Boylan. I'm the executive member for Neighbourhoods, which covers licensing, community safety and housing.
Thank you. Councillor Eric Buckmaster.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Eric Buckmaster and I'm the Executive Member for Wellbeing.
Thank you. Councillor Cutting.
Good afternoon. My name is Councillor George Cutting and I'm the Executive Member for Corporate Services.
Thank you. Councillor Graham McAndrew.
Yeah, good afternoon. Councillor Graham McAndrew, Executive Member for Environmental Sustainability.
Thank you. Councillor Suzanne Rutland-Barsby.
Good afternoon. Suzanne Rutland-Barsby, Member for Communities, which includes engagement, partnerships and also member matters. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Rutland-Barsby, your sound's a little bit iffy, so not sure if your microphone's in the right place. Okay.
It's the Lenovo. I'll get a bit nearer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Williamson.
Good afternoon, Jeff Williamson, Executive Member for Financial Sustainability.
Okay, thank you. Leaders' announcements, I don't really have any, just to say welcome. Please remember, everyone on this call, you are being live YouTubed, and this recording will be saved so that members of the public can see it in subsequent time. I would ask that... Councillor Goodeve, have I not asked you to introduce yourself?
Not me, Linda.
I do my best. Councillor Goodeve, sorry.
Yeah, Councillor Jan Goodeve. Hello, everyone. I'm the Executive Member for Planning and Growth.
I ticked you off before I actually got to you, so my apologies. Okay, so everyone, please remember, please stay on mute unless you wish to say something. I would urge all of you who are able to show yourselves on camera so that it's very apparent to members of the public that we are all engaged fully through the whole of this meeting. Thank you. I think we also, in terms of voting, it's the executive who vote on the matters coming towards us. We will be using the system of a raised hand, either for or against or abstain. Those little hands will become very visible in our little pictures on the screen, and we will be, it will be confirmed by James Ellis, Head of Legal, that we are actually what the decision is at the time. So I hope you're all keeping well. As I said, it's getting lighter, so there is light at the end of the tunnel. The next agenda item are the minutes. These are on page 7 and they cover the meeting on the 5th of January. I'm happy to propose them. May I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor McAndrew. Are there comments or questions on these? Thank you. Can I ask the executive, please, to approve these? We need to put our hands up. Yeah. Thank you. That looks to me as though it's unanimous. Number 4, declarations of interest. This covers all councillors who are in this meeting, so it's not just the executive. Do I have any declarations of interest? I can't see anyone, but then I can't see everyone on my screen. No, thank you. Agenda item 5, which is on page 19. This is the draft, the draft East Herts cultural strategy, which will be presented by Councillor Buckmaster. Councillor Buckmaster.
Thank you, Leader. I'm very happy to introduce the draft East Herts cultural strategy for 2021 to 2025. I'd like to give some context to the strategy and how it fits in with our overall approach to health and well-being and community development. And I should start by saying that while it covers a lot of ground, this is not a what have the Romans done for us situation. In the introduction, I'm clearing saying that we don't want to list or prescribe what culture is. Creativity shouldn't be limited in that way, nor how it's delivered. The strategy is a broad statement of ambition that it is to be delivered through partners, volunteers, and the whole community. There are partner organisations which have already subscribed to the principles, but this is the very beginning, and engagement will grow and the strategy will evolve over time. It is extremely important that our strategies are not seen to be standalone, but all linked as part of an holistic approach. As an example, our very successful Forever Active programme, social prescribing, Dementia Friends, and our major capital investments in leisure provision and art centres are all part and all components of the delivery of our health and wellbeing strategy. There are, of course, crossovers between arts and physical activity and benefit to mental wellbeing, and dance, for example, is one way of doing that. Last year, we launched our Healthy Hub programme with funding from Hertfordshire County Council and in collaboration with partner organisations. And I can actually see all of these elements, including delivery of the cultural strategy, coming under that umbrella. One of the consultation comments received was about having a clear information hub, and certainly communication, signposting and coordination is very important. And Hertfordshire, by the way, is just starting the creation of its own county-wide cultural strategy with the aim of coordinating themes and leveraging external funding through the potential of districts and boroughs working together. The strategy has incorporated comments made from the consultation, and we had a lively discussion at overview and scrutiny. Potential issues such as access and transportation were discussed, as well as funding. These are all valid, but I'd also like us to focus on the opportunities that arise from collaboration, and perhaps less on the settings and more on the objectives, delivery and outcomes. With this in mind, I'd like to add later a third recommendation, which I'll state following any comments or questions. And we have officers on hand who can answer any questions around the consultation. So to misquote another classic film, here's looking at you, kid, or should I say members. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Buckmaster. Have you set a trend here where we're all going to have to come up with sort of film analogies for the papers going forward? I think you've set us a very high bar there. So anyway, thank you very much. I think this is just an amazing piece of work, and I would like to thank officers for the amazing amount of time that they spent on this. It's not easy to work out what a cultural strategy for a district council should be. And as Councillor Buckmaster has said, it's very easy to focus on the bits of kit and the mating and where things happen, as opposed to what the objectives need to be in bringing culture into all our lives. Are there any comments or questions from anyone? Right, I can't see any. So, Councillor Buckmaster, presumably, I believe you have an additional recommendation for this paper?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, please, Leader. Yes, so in addition to the recommendations, I'd like to add a third, which is the executive recommends to council that the multi-agency strategic and delivery groups to which the report refers be formed, and that the drafting of a detailed action plan be prioritised to ensure swift commencement of the vital work of the cultural strategy. Thank you, Leader. So I commend all of those recommendations.
Thank you, and I'm very happy to second all those recommendations. Given that we now have a third recommendation, are there any comments or questions on that? No, if that is the case, please can I ask the executive to raise their hand if they are in favour of this policy. Excellent. Anyone against? Anyone wish to abstain? That policy is now will go to council and it will then go out for consultation. So thank you very much indeed. Right, now we move on to agenda item 6, which is the Sustainability Supplementary Planning document, and Councillor Goodeve will be introducing this paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. The Sustainability Supplementary Planning document, SPD, has been prepared to provide guidance on the implementation of adopted district plan policies relating to climate change and sustainable design and construction. Once adopted, it will be a material consideration in the determination of planning applications, and it will replace the Air Quality Planning Guidance 2016. The draft Sustainability SPD was considered by the Executive last year prior to public consultation, and the final document has been amended to reflect issues raised through consultation. There was a good level of responses to the consultation, with a total of 182 responses from 38 consultees. Most consultees were supportive of the purpose and scope of the SPD, with nearly 70% of the responses providing comments on various aspects of the SPD. Whilst the district plan does not set specific energy targets, the focus of the SPD is to ensure policy requirements are implemented and encourages good practice and compliance with stronger energy targets. It's a very thorough document and puts a strong marker down that the Council expects high environment sustainability in new developments. Members are therefore invited to agree the officer responses to consultation comments, the proposed modifications, and the adoption of the final document.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions on this? We have all seen it before. This is the final document, and again, I think it's important that we do recognise that this is an important aspect of our work going forward. And I think we also, I think the other thing is to make sure is to say that it's actually also tied into the policies which are being produced for the Garden Town as well. So there is complementarity to them. Councillor McAndrew, I see you're raising a hand.
Yeah, I would just like to take this opportunity to thank the officers for their inputs. It was a difficult document to pull together, and it was done over quite a long period of time. And also all the members of public transition groups and climate groups that made a contribution. It's a really good document for the preparation for the review of the district plan in 2 years' time. And whilst this document highlights current boundaries, I think developers have got a role to play in exceeding the minimum expectations in this document. And I think we've got to send a message out to the developers that they've got to sort of move forward with the expectation of the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much for Councillor McAndrew, and I believe you're happy to second this paper.
Yes, I second it, yes.
Okay. Okay, anybody wish to say anything or comment? No. Thank you again to the officers for pulling this together. As Councillor McAndrew said, it wasn't an easy document to pull together, and covered enormous range of activities. So, but it's really great that we've actually got it now, and it will become a material planning document. So that's even better. So Executive, please can I take you to page 75, where there are 3 recommendations, A, B and C. I will take them on block. Please can I ask you to raise your hand if you are in agreement with these? Okay. Anyone against? Anyone wish to abstain? No, that is carried unanimously. So thank you, and thank you to the officers on all of that. And if you wish to leave the meeting, then please do so. Agenda item 8, which is on page 573, which is the Treasury Management and Annual Investment Strategy. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you very much indeed, Leader. We are required to provide 3 Treasury reports for each financial year, of which this is the first, it being the forward-looking report covering the year coming. It covers our capital plans, including our prudential indicators, our minimum revenue provision policy, and our Treasury management and investment strategies. Broadly speaking, our Treasury function ensures that we have the cash available to cover our daily operating costs and that we have the longer term funding available to finance our capital projects. Surpluses are invested, with security being the most important factor, then liquidity and then yield. Needless to say, good Treasury management is vital to the effective functioning of the Council and all our various activities. The strategy was considered by Audit and Governance, and there were no amendments proposed. I'm happy, therefore, that this should go forward for approval by Council, and happy to move the recommendations A and B on page 573 and show the colour of our money.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments or questions on this? No. Okay, we will finish off on agenda item 8 and then go back to agenda item 7. So can I ask, I believe Councillor Rutland-Barsby, you are going to second this?
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Leader. Very happy to second this item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask the executive to vote on this if you're in favour? Okay, thank you. Anyone against? Or wish to abstain? No, that looks as though it's been carried in unanimously. Councillor Goody, I don't wish to give you a complex here because I've missed you out again. So anyway, please can we go on to the planning enforcement paper?
Right. The current planning enforcement plan was last updated in 2016. However, the priorities and approach to handling cases needs to be updated. The report before you sets out that the level of enforcement complaint is high, and it also explains the current position with staff resources. The officer assessment shows that whilst the level of cases are high, the majority of enforcement investigations do not result in any further action being taken, mainly because there is not a breach or it is not considered to be expedient to enforce. The way it works at the moment under the current enforcement plan is that all enforcement reports are investigated, which means a file is opened and a site visit is undertaken. The new plan changes this and proposes that a desktop assessment is undertaken before a file is opened to investigate further. This is to help identify those cases where there is not a breach of planning control, or those minor cases where action would not be taken. A record of decision would be kept, but a file would not be opened. For those cases where a file is opened, the updated plan lists 3 priorities depending on the level of breach. The updated plan was considered by Overview and Scrutiny Committee on the 2nd of February 2021. There was concern expressed about officer resources and whether more is needed, but the proposed approach was well received, and it was proposed that a review of the updated plan is undertaken after 1 year. I understand the concern about staff resources, but before an increase in resources is explored, the approach outlined in the updated plan needs to be implemented first. An operational review of the structure of the planning service is underway and is considering service arrangements and priorities within the existing budget envelope. And this will sit alongside the updated plan. I think it is a sensible suggestion for a review to take place after a year, and that will allow us to reflect on how the new approach is working, alongside any other matters that may arise during that time. Before I finish, I want to mention that whilst there hasn't been any formal consultation on the new approach, a couple of parish councils have provided some comments on the proposals, mainly in relation to resources and matters of detail. As we haven't opened this up for formal consultation, I won't go into those detailed points, other than to say that these are informally noted and officers will provide a response. The report also makes clear that as part of implementing the updated plan, improvements to reporting and dialogue with town and parish councils will be explored. Members are invited to agree the updated Enforcement Plan 2021 as outlined in the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Goodeve. Again, an excellent approach to enforcement, such that the areas that really do have to be enforced actually have the full resources that can be made available. Are there any comments or questions on this paper? I can't see any hands go up. Okay. So I am...
Chairman, I think Councillor Page may have his hand up.
Yep, sure. Councillor Page, sorry, I didn't see your hand. Councillor Page.
Thank you, Leader. Well, thank you. Yeah, there's a couple of things I'd just like to say. I thought the report was a very good report. It did highlight the difficulties under which the enforcement officers have to work. Now, I'm slightly concerned with the finding that important consideration should be given to the health and well-being of enforcement officers in paragraph 4.2. And I hear what is said about testing the new policy for a year and coming back, but I don't know that it actually goes far enough in confirming that there should be no human resources recommendations in para 7.9. I just think a little more thought should be given to the support of officers.
Councillor Goodeve, do you want to comment on that?
I think we are cognizant of the pressure that the enforcement officers have been under. And I think that partly underlies why this triage system, which is also being adopted by some other local authorities, is going to be trialled. I can see that Sarah Saunders is on the call. Is there anything you'd like to add, Sarah?
Thank you, Councillor Goodeve. No, I think that's right. I don't want to add much more to that. You know, I think the past 2 years, there have been a number of high priority enforcement cases that officers have been investigating across the district, and we've got a high level of cases. We've got, a certain number of officers focused on planning enforcement, and I think what we need to do is test this new approach to provide a better match between the number of cases that are a priority to investigate and the resources that we have available. Obviously, we are concerned about the well-being of staff, and we keep that under review on a consistent basis.
Thank you, Sarah, for that. Tim, is that all right? Do you want to come back, or is there another point you wish to make?
No, that's okay. I just didn't want the officers being overlooked after they had been recognised as working under difficult conditions.
Thank you, and I'm sure that will be minuted, and I'm sure Sarah will take that concern back to officers. And that was one of the main reasons why we pushed this one, because we felt that officers were often looking at things which actually would have been given planning permission anyway, and under permitted development rights, residents are allowed to do an awful lot more, which they weren't able to do a few years ago. And a lot of next door neighbours, etc., don't understand that the rules have changed, and that's why this desktop work will be the first step in the triage. Okay, any more comments or questions?
Councillor Curtis has his hand raised, Leader.
Yeah, Councillor Curtis.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, so I was obviously I'm a member of Overview and Scrutiny, so we discussed this at our most recent meeting, this paper. I'm keen to know from Councillor Goodeve what amendments, if any, were made to the report that is now, well, sort of the proposed policy that's being put to this meeting, following the comments that were made by members of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee at our most recent meeting. Yeah, I'm interested to know what amendments were made following the feedback received.
It's my understanding that comments from both Overview and Scrutiny and the members' briefing led to the agreement to have a review after a year. I can't recall any other amendments being made, but I could be wrong on that point. Sarah, do you recall any other amendments?
No, the main amendment related to making sure that we reviewed the plan after a year. That's been acknowledged in paragraph 7.1 of the executive report, and also in paragraph 5.9. And then all the other comments we've taken on board as part of, work, part of pulling the plan together and presenting it. So that was the very specific change we made following Overview and Scrutiny to make it very clear that it would be reviewed after a year.
Thank you for that.
Sorry.
Okay, any other comments or questions on this? No, in that case, Executive.
I'm happy to second that.
Oh yeah, thank you very much indeed. I've just lost my screen. Let's head for it. Seconded by Councillor Cutting. Please can I ask the Executive to vote on that if they're happy with it? Great. Anyone wish to vote against or abstain? No, that one is carried. If we now go, please, to page 649, this is Councillor Williamson and the budget. Councillor Williamson.
Okay, thank you, Leader. This report presents our budget plans for 21-22 and our MTFP up to 23-24, and covers our net cost of services, corporate budgets, use of reserves, external funding, council tax, and our capital programme. And we'll be taking this for approval to council next month. You will recall that when we started last year to look at the budget and the MTFP, we knew we had targets to save of 1 million in the coming year, with a further 1 million in 22-23. Then a further 2 million in 23-24. Consequently, in conjunction with the leadership team, a set of preferred options for savings was considered, which formed the basis of a report that was taken through Audit and Governance Committee and the Executive back in November. These proposals are presented in the report as Appendix A, and among these is the scheme for charging for garden waste collection, which was formally approved at Council last month. The savings are to be introduced in stages over the next 3 years, and at the time we published them last year, they succeeded in filling the budget gap for 21-22, though left a 200,000 gap for 22-23 and just under 1 million to find in 23-24. Needless to say, should a situation arise whereby any of these proposals be withdrawn or substantially reduced, then clearly an equivalent saving capable of being delivered within the same timescale will need to be found elsewhere in order to compensate. Since that time, however, further adverse events have occurred only to make the situation more difficult for us. The first was the government announcement in November that PWLB borrowing would no longer be permissible if any part of our capital programme contains investment primarily for yield. This, in short, has meant that we cannot continue with the measures within our financial sustainability strategy to generate further income, neither through commercial property investment nor through Millstream, though at least we are still able to benefit from the income generated by the property investments we have made so far. Then, of course, we have had further periods of lockdown thanks to COVID, and as our resulting losses are only partly covered by government grants, the effects on our finances this year are made even more uncertain, as is the impact on our budget next year. However, the situation has been partly offset by the 21-22 settlement for local authorities, this being a roll forward of what we had for the current year, which will provide us with an unexpected 1.2 million of new homes bonus. What we cannot do, though, is continue the automatic 25% top slicing of this new homes bonus receipt for town and parish councils. Instead, we propose that towns and parishes can request funding from us up to the level of what they would have received if they have particular community projects planned and all the previous new homes bonus money paid to them has already been spent. The savings will come from the fact that the number of councils have unspent new homes bonus money, and not all will have schemes that they need to fund. With regard to council tax, for the last 3 years, we have followed the government's expectations that we should build our core spending power by increasing council tax by the maximum allowed without a referendum. This for us is £5 on a Band D equivalent property, and we have applied the same for 21-22 and for the life of the MTFP. We have also reviewed our fees and charges as we do each year, and again applied an average 2.5% increase to reflect rises in our costs of delivery. As mentioned, we still have budget gaps for future years, so alongside the savings plans that we have already produced, we will be undergoing a transformation programme designed to identify further efficiencies in our ways of working. This will be a major piece of work, and the details are given in paragraph 2.21 of the report. The final point I'd like to put across most strongly is that despite all the difficulties we've had in preparing this budget, by far the most challenging in recent times, we have managed to do so without any real cuts to our frontline services. So the papers in front of us have the full background and information covering the preparation of the budget and the MTFP, and recommendations, which start on page 649, cover the various elements we need to agree should be put to Council for approval next month. Therefore, I'm pleased to move recommendation A in its 5 parts, along with recommendations B and C. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much indeed. And again, I would like to thank officers for the extraordinary amount of work that they had to do over many, many hours to actually come up with a budget that, as Jeff has said, means that we are still able to maintain our frontline services. However, there were some difficult decisions that we've had to make, and it may not necessarily get any easier. So I think we all need to be very conscious that this year the budget, the input from central government has just been rolled over, although we had wanted a 5-year review, a 5-year settlement so that we knew what the future would hold for us, but that wasn't forthcoming. So we have no idea where where we're going to end up with the government funding in the future. Okay, anybody got any comments or questions? Councillor Curtis.
Thank you, Leader. When the proposed budget came to the joint meeting of scrutiny committees earlier this month, I raised a question regarding the assumptions made in terms of income from fees, specifically from parking season tickets, and how it has been assumed that that our revenues will rise by the percentage by which we increase the fees, and that makes sense if there's no behavioural changes. But I'm very keen to know what consideration has been given to how residents' habits in terms of parking, for example, may change due to the events over the last year. And I think that a fantastic job has been done in putting this budget together, but I'm just keen to know what will be done to ensure that we're not going to be left out of pocket if some of these assumptions that don't reflect what will come over the coming months of this budget period. I was wondering what the executive member.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Curtis. I believe you did receive a written answer after scrutiny, but I'm sure you've raised a very valid point, and I'm sure if I can ask Councillor Williamson to cover that in the financial budget side, and then I'll ask Councillor McAndrew to give some view as to where he believes parking fees will go in the future. Jeff?
Yes, I do remember that the written answer was sent out. I need to refer back to it actually to be able to answer the question. I actually wonder if maybe we could just recirculate that written response again.
Yeah, we can certainly do that and attach the appropriate answer to the minutes. Councillor McAndrew, is there anything you wish to add?
Yeah, with regard to parking fees moving forward with the COVID-19, we're actually taking stock long-term, short-term car parks, etc., and looking at what fees we need to charge where, and maybe reduce fees in other areas. But that's an exercise that's currently being carried out, and we won't know the actual state of play until there's return back to some normality. That once commuters, take for example, won't be commuting into London, they'll be staying at home, working from home. So the whole dynamics of parking has changed considerably, but we're actually physically looking at it at this time and moment.
Thank you, Councillor McAndrew. Are there any other comments or questions on this paper? Any hands? No, I can't see any more. Councillor Williamson has proposed this paper, and I am very happy to second it. Executive, please can I'm prepared to, I'm very happy to second this. Executive, please can I ask you to raise your hands if you're happy to approve this paper? Yeah, my hand hasn't gone up. There it is. Okay, so carried unanimously, and yeah, a good piece of work. Still very much in uncertain times. Thank you. Agenda item 10, which is on page 721. This is the capital strategy. Back to Councillor Williamson, please.
Thank you. The need for the Council to produce an annual capital strategy was introduced following strengthening of the guidance from both MHCLG and CIPFA, which reinforced the wisdom of having a published capital and treasury management strategies to manage and control these areas. The capital strategy is useful as a high-level document for members and other stakeholders, as it pulls together and considers a range of both external and internal factors and how these interrelate with policy and decision-making in respect of capital investment. As such, it helps demonstrate a golden thread running through and linking our activities to ensure they're coordinated and consistent. For example, as we continue to deliver, review and update the capital programme, we will do so within the context of our corporate priorities and our sustainability commitments. There is much within the document that explains the various linkages and also the process of approval for both the overall capital strategy and individual capital schemes. The strategy was considered by Audit and Governance, but no amendments were put forward. Therefore, I'm pleased to move the recommendation A on page 721 for that this strategy be taken to full council for approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Goody, are you happy to second this paper? Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions on this? Right, I can't see any blue hands. So executive, please can I ask you to use your yellow hand to vote if you are happy with this paper? Great, that looks as though it's unanimous, but anyone wish to vote against it? Or abstain? No. Okay, now we go on to agenda item 11, which is on page 785. This is for noting the decision of the Chief Executive under emergency powers to approve a scheme for the local authority discretionary grant fund. Councillor Williamson is, the paper is as it says. Councillor Williamson, is there anything you wish to comment on, or are you just happy to propose it?
We can go straight to moving the recommendation if you like, Leader.
Yeah. Are there any comments or questions on this? No, thank you. So proposed by Councillor Williamson. Councillor Rutland-Barsby, are you happy to second? Okay, that's great.
Second, Leader. Thank you.
Thank you. And can I ask if we are all happy, please use a blue hand or a yellow hand or whatever we've got this afternoon. Excellent. That looks as though it's carried unanimously. Can I ask if there are any against or abstain, just to cover the formalities? Fine, now we go to a verbal update from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. I'm not sure if Councillor Wiley's with us. I haven't seen him on the call. No, okay. Councillor Pope, I know you're with us. Do you want to update us just also on audit and governance, and perhaps you can say a few words about the Joint Scrutiny Committee, if there was anything for you to share?
The Audit and Governance Committee last met on the 10th of February. The committee reviewed the latest shared internal audit report and also the Council's investment and capital strategies and the minimum reserve provision policy. As has already been mentioned by Councillor Williamson, there were no comments made with regard to these documents. The Council's external auditor also attended to present the 1920 annual audit letter, which is really a summary of how the audit went. This had already really been reviewed at a previous meeting of the Council, so it didn't do anything new. One thing to note, however, was their proposed fee, which is some 23% higher than was initially planned for. The majority of this increase relates to additional work concerning COVID-related matters. Surprise, surprise. The PSAA are currently considering the increase. We'll hear from them shortly. I think that's the way of the world at the moment. COVID is getting at it in every direction. That really covers the latest Audit and Governance Committee meeting. With regard to the joint meeting, the joint scrutiny meeting, the proposals for the budget were discussed at length. I think the meeting lasted a shade under an hour. There are a number of questions. I think the councillors present recognise that this council have got some difficult decisions to make, as you alluded to earlier, and that the result is a good one for the council, and that the services haven't been cut. And we've managed to balance the budget, which I think everybody recognised. I think the council really were united in recognising the hard work that the officers have done in connection with this. Indeed, councillors too. I think you and your colleagues have worked jolly hard as part of this process too, so I think we all recognise that. We know we're in a difficult place and things aren't going to get any easier. But I think everyone recognised, I guess we are where we are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pope, for that. Are there any other comments or questions arising from what Councillor Pope has said? No. Okay, great. In that case, colleagues, I've not been informed of any urgent business, so we close this meeting of the executive at 14:44. Go and have a good afternoon and have a good weekend. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.